It's time to check your money with Mike Jennings, wealth advisor with Brackens Financial Solutions Network LLC and a registered representative of LPL Financial member SIPC. Mike, what's going on?
What's going on? It's been good. I would say it's been we had consistent weather. Finally, it was a long road getting out of winter and whatever. I don't even know if that consider that spring, but it's like you can walk outside and you start sweating. So I'm good. I'm appreciative.
It's up and down though. So some days it's beautiful, and then some days it's like, what season is this?
As long as it's consistently above a certain degree, then I'm good. I'm
I,
good. All
I
right.
heard that.
Now I see you're wearing
Um,
something. Our audio listeners won't be able
okay,
to
let me
see it, but our
listen.
visual audience, you have to explain this.
I am wearing the jersey of the captain, Jalen Brunson, of my New York Knicks as a long suffering Knicks fan who's been through the ups and the downs.
Suffering.
53 years since
53
the
years.
last championship. 53 years. Okay. I was in sixth grade or something like that. Okay. And, and, and 1999, 27 years since the last finals appearance.
Parents. Yep.
The Knicks have won more games in a row this cycle at the start of the playoffs than they had in a whole decade. So
Hmm.
so I'm really excited for uh being in the game. That's what I'll say. Being
Yeah.
in the game. And for all of my diehard Knick fans, you know the pain, but we also have
Hmm.
been experiencing some pleasure
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. As
But
it as
yeah.
it's been noted on social media, there are way too many Jalen's in the NBA.
Oh my
But
God,
we
is it like
we
25 or
we
something?
got we can keep ours. We keep Brunson.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna keep Brunson. Mike,
It's also great that you're wearing that because we're actually gonna be talking about New York
come
in
on.
this segment here today. So there was actually something pretty interesting in the news recently. Lately it seems like we only hear about like all the money that the ultra wealthy are making in this country, but
Hmm.
this story might spark something a little bit different, right? So
Okay.
you happen to know what I'm talking about, George?
Oh, I'm trying to think. What are
What,
you
what
talking
what
about?
what are the wealthy people going through down in New York City? Or I
What?
guess about to go through.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't Mamdani like coming for them?
He is. He definitely is. So last week, actually, New York State lawmakers approved something that Mayor Mamdani promised during his campaign to help fight against the wealth gap, and that is called the Pied-à-Terre tax. Now, what is that? What is that? What is that? I know some of you probably listen like, what did you say? So that it's a tax on luxury second homes in New York City. So pied-à-terre is French for foot or feet on the ground, one depending on the context, I think. But
Right.
um, it's basically what it is. It's the actual term itself, pied-à-terre, is an apartment or a residence that typically, wealthy people have as a secondary, non-primary residence. So, say for example, somebody living out in the suburbs, like the countryside, right? Because it's French. So think of people living in the countryside in France and having an apartment in Paris that they use partly for work or something like that. And same thing in New York City, right? Um, so again, it's a smaller non-primary residence that people typically use only part-time for whatever purpose that is. Um, what do you think of that, George? Like, what do you think of going after people with these sorts of residences?
I got to tell you, I would be careful with that because these folks already pay a lot of, well, are supposed to pay a lot of
Hmm.
taxes, but it might backfire. It might backfire.
It could. It could. It's a definitely a complex situation with some of the things that you mentioned. But really the points of the debate primarily, for the fact that, typically these are luxuries that only a certain segment of society can even afford to have in the first place. So, you're going to get some people that are like, yep, just tax the wealthy, eat the rich, whatever the slogan is, and that's going to be the only thing they're focusing on. But then also you can think that from the wasteful side of it, right? People having these residences are reducing overall the number of units available, especially in places like New York, other big cities that are experiencing housing crises. Um, and the fact that, many of these wealthy people who have these sorts of residents also live in completely different states or countries from where these pied-à-terres are. So most of the time, they already are not actively participating in the tax structure of these places that they're using part-time. So the idea of actually, taxing these sorts of units it's not new, but Mamdani was able to deliver that promise that he made on on his campaign, and this type of taxation has been gaining traction again in other places too. And they're also kind of roping in other non-primary residences, such as like vacation homes.
Hmm.
But again, speaking of New York City, so how it works is the tax brings an annual surcharge on 1 to 3 family homes, condos, and co-ops that are valued above $5 million
Oh, okay.
when the owner right.
I ain't got
When
nothing to
the
worry about
owner,
right now. Okay. Not yet.
when taxing those properties when the owner has a separate primary residence outside of New York City. So it could be somebody as close as, Jersey. Um, so again, properties worth between one this might get a little bit closer to you. Uh, Properties worth between 1 million to 3 million will have a 4% annual tax. Properties 3 to 5 million will face a 5.25% tax, and those above 5 million will get taxed the highest at 6.5%. And they're going to be rolling out these new surcharges over the span of 2 years, starting in 2028. So 2028 and 2029 are when these new surcharges are going to be coming out. Obviously, like you mentioned, a little bit of the blowback, some of the wealthy people affected by this, they're not really taking it too kindly, right? And actually, before this law was put into place, um, Mamdani was still sort of campaigning for it. He made a video, which he's known to do. He was very good at social media as far as being a candidate. He made a video talking about implementing this tax, and he was standing in front of a building that had a penthouse owned by a Florida billionaire, Ken Griffin, which obviously, assumably he lives in Florida, so he only uses this property whenever he's in the city part time. Um, and because of this, Griffin sort of became like the poster child of the ultra wealthy that are just using these properties part time and not really participating in the active the tax structure of New York overall. But again, Griffin he's been clapping back a bit too, and he's claimed, or I don't know, threatened is the word, that he will be focusing on creating more jobs in Florida rather than New York, if Mom Donnie keeps it up with his antics. But I mean, so far, I mean, to me, I guess this seems like a win for Mom Donnie and all the things that he promised. And this tax is actually expected having expected revenue of 500 million, $500 million a year additional for the
And
city.
and what's the plan for that?
Well, the plan actually, this tax went into was actually approved as part of the budget for this year for New York State, and it's been reported that the budget gap that existed, I think it was like $12 billion, a budget gap in New York City. He actually closed the gap with this new partly because of this new tax. So again, I mean, this seems like, oh, actually, he did that close the gap without reducing any, public services or, necessity things that people use day to day. Like, people talk about the bus system, people talk about other things that they rely on. He didn't have to reduce any of that in order to close the budget gap. So again, that's another big thing. Um, so what do you think, George? Uh, do you see this working out well? I know you said you might have a little bit of blowback, but
I
how?
think, to be honest with you, I think Mamdani has to be careful
Mhm.
because obviously New York City's wealth is the engine that drives
Oh
a
yeah,
big part of the economy. You just have to be careful as to whether or not you're going to create such a backlash that the billionaires who live in the city will continue to exodus and go to Texas or Florida where they get a better deal or where they perceive themselves getting a better bang for their buck. So I'd be
yeah,
careful. That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
that's my hedge, right? On the other hand, pay your fair share. So
No, I get it. No, no, New York City is undoubtedly the financial center of the world. Um, I, I, I
you like it.
I don't think the exodus or the blowback from the billionaires is going to be as bad as some people are making it out to be, simply because of New York. New York is New York. It'll be pretty hard to make another New York financially wise, right? Um, and I'm under the impression already that billionaires already have properties all over the place anyway. So
Right.
the idea of them leaving, quote unquote, isn't necessarily like
And
a super negative thing to me. But also, you know, if you think if you're a billionaire in New York, you have a residence in New York. In order to leave New York permanently, you would have to sell your property, which also creates more revenue, more tax surcharges and things like that. So you can't leave without also still spending money. So it's a give and take on both sides. But overall, I think New York is simply going to stay in New York. Um,
okay.
and I know there's been conversations about, implementing something like this in other places and maybe even smaller places, right? Again, with all the things that we mentioned, the thing to note is why it is working in New York City, and not smaller places is because of the density, the pure amount of luxury properties and units in New York. Smaller cities, say Syracuse, for example, there's obviously much less or of less wealth to tax in the first place. But also an interesting thing to note is that the property value assessment system in New York City is kind of wonky anyway, and many of the properties are actually valued 10% less than their fair market value. So not as bad as like here in Syracuse, where properties are like undervalued by half, but still significant enough to throw off the expected revenue a bit. So it'll be challenging to find a way to implement something like this in a smaller city or places that need it. Um, but I mean, if you're a listener out there and you happen to have a part-time apartment in New York City, let me or George know because game three is tomorrow, and
Yes.
we need to be down there. We need to be down there. We're recording this early, so we could be halfway through the finals by at this point,
Potentially.
and we got to be down there for the action.
Listen, I actually have to inform my employer, right? I do work somewhere, that I need a floating holiday because you know, if things go the way they should, I'm gonna be there for that.
Have you been asking for this for the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
Just in the hopes?
I never, we never, it's funny because with the Mitchell Robinson Pinky thing, it was like, can't we have nice things? You know what I mean? Like, we're fully healthy for the first time. Like every series over the last few years, somebody was hurt, and then he goes and does that. But anyway, make a long story short, we're hopeful that at the time of this conversation, we are completely hopeful.
That's right. That's right, listeners. So even if you don't have a property in New York City, if you just want to get your financial planning in order and make sure that your future is accounted for, then please give your friendly neighborhood advisor a call at 315-748-5540. Again, that's 315-748-5540. Or you can send me an email at michael.jennings@brackensfsn.com.
Mike Jennings is a wealth advisor at Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. He is your friendly neighborhood advisor.